Sometimes pain becomes so quiet that it starts to sound like background noise. I didn't scream. I didn't cry out loud. I just kept living. People said I was strong, but I was merely making it to the next morning. My daughter's name was Leah. She was only 5. She passed away in the spring, just when everything around started to bloom, as if on purpose, as if to remind me the pain was mine alone. I tried to heal, with therapy, pills, work. Nothing helped. One day, while cleaning up, I found a book I'd once bought online, the Tao Te Ching. As I flipped through the pages, one line, underlined in pencil, caught my eye. When I let go of what I am, I become what I might be. I didn't know what it meant, but something clicked. I opened my laptop and typed, Taoism, Monastery, China. I didn't expect to find a real address. There was an email on the site. I wrote a short message using an online translator. I translated a few lines into Chinese, saying I wanted to study Taoism, and added in English, I'm lost. I need silence. 2 days later, I received a reply. Just a few lines, no name. You can come. Here's how to get here. 2 weeks later, I bought a ticket. I wasn't looking for salvation, only hoping that if I stopped holding on, the pain might feel lighter. I arrived in China and boarded a bus to a town whose name I couldn't remember. It was somewhere between the mountains and the clouds, in Sichuan province. From there, I followed the directions. A smaller bus, then another, and finally, a walk up a stone path. The view from the window slowly changed, from noisy streets and markets to mountains wrapped in mist. I sat silently with my backpack on my knees. For the first time in a long while, I felt no fear, only weariness, and a quiet, almost invisible hope. The monastery wasn't what I expected. A few wooden buildings on the mountainside, peeling steps, a warm, damp breeze. Everything looked slightly weathered, and because of that, alive. The routine began the next morning. We rose before dawn, in silence. A small group of students, men and women, gathered in the courtyard. We practiced simple movements, like a slow-motion dance. I didn't fully understand what they meant, but I followed, doing my best not to fall behind. Taoism doesn't teach you to defeat pain. It teaches you not to resist the flow of events, of loss, of silence, to be like water, soft but persistent. And with each movement, I felt as if I was learning again how to live, without trying to control anything. Sometimes a monk would gently adjust my hands or turn my shoulders. After practice came a modest breakfast, rice, water, a few vegetables. Then work, cleaning floors, rinsing rice, sorting herbs, all by hand with no rush. I didn't know the language. I guessed meanings from gestures and glances. On my 3rd day, a young man arrived, clearly not local, with light brown hair. He didn't look like a monk, just simple trousers and a light jacket. You just arrived? He asked in English. I nodded. My name is Daniel. I come here now and then to help new students who don't speak Chinese. I studied in Suzhou, then stayed. Chinese philosophy became part of my life, not as a hobby, but a way to see the world. I love being part of this place. Daniel was patient and attentive. He helped not just with the language, but with the people, explaining the rhythm of the days, the silent rules, when to ask questions and when to stay quiet. Sometimes he taught me simple Chinese words: water, silence, beginning. He showed me how to write them, and I carefully copied the characters into my notebook, as if touching another world. We worked side by side, in the kitchen, the garden, the meditation hall. He was calm, almost invisible, and because of that, deeply alive. Sometimes when I got distracted, he would just smile. One day, while we were sorting dried herbs, he suddenly asked, "Why did you come here?" I paused. Not because I didn't know, but because I wasn't sure I could say it out loud. "I lost my daughter," I said, "and I couldn't breathe the way I used to. I guess I came here to learn how to accept life as it is." He nodded without a word, then softly said, "It's strange how pain, all kinds of pain, brings people to the same places." He didn't explain, but there was something in his voice I remembered, like a thread between us. Thin, invisible, but real. Daniel was kind and quiet, but rarely spoke of himself. It felt like he held a thin wall between him and the world, not out of mistrust, but from fear of hurting or being hurt. One day, a French woman named Sophie arrived. She had been there before and came for a short stay. We met in the kitchen, peeling beans. Sophie was warm and light, and just being around her felt safe. One morning at breakfast, she said, "Daniel, he's a good one, and strong, though he won't admit it." I looked up at her. "He wasn't always like this," she continued, staring out the window. "After what happened with his friend, he blamed himself for a long time, even though no one knew how bad it really was." "His friend?" I asked. She looked away, pressed her lips together, froze like she realized she said too much. "Sorry," she said quickly. "I thought you knew. Forget it. It's not my place." She never brought it up again, but something shifted in me. I barely saw Daniel that day. He seemed to be avoiding me, working in the garden, near the kitchen, on the path to the spring, but never meeting my eyes. That night he missed dinner. The next morning he didn't show up for practice. One of the monks quietly said Daniel had left. Without saying goodbye, I stood on the porch, staring at the trail leading down the slope. I didn't understand what had happened. Everything inside me collapsed. I wasn't sure what hurt more, his sudden disappearance or the fear that maybe I had imagined it all. His kindness, his attention, that invisible thread I thought connected us. Weeks passed. My time there was ending. I tried to focus on the practices, but my thoughts kept circling back to him, his voice, his silence. Then the day came when I had to leave. I packed my things, thanked the teachers, bowed in the hall of silence, and walked down the same stone path I had climbed weeks before. I returned to America. Everything looked the same, but inside, everything had changed. Sometimes I thought I was exaggerating, that he was just kind, like he was to many others, that there was no special connection. Maybe he was just a man helping a stranger feel less alone. But something in his eyes, in the quiet we shared, wouldn't let go. I kept remembering his words. Pain brings people to the same places. And every time, it felt like there was more he hadn't said. I resumed my life, worked, saw people, even laughed sometimes. But deep inside, something still felt unfinished. Then one evening, just an ordinary night, while going through my inbox, I saw a new email. Sender, Daniel.Wen at... My hands went cold. I opened it. "You're probably surprised I'm writing. I'm sorry I left like that." I couldn't explain it then. I wasn't ready. But I think now, I can try. A few years ago, I lost a friend. We were very close. He asked for help, but I didn't really hear him. I was busy. I thought he'd be okay. Then he was gone, and I was left with the guilt. It never faded. It never faded. That's when I first came to the monastery, as someone who didn't know how to keep living. Taoism didn't help me escape the pain, but it taught me how to face it. Since then, I return, often. Sometimes for long stretches. Sometimes just to help newcomers, especially those who don't speak Chinese. It's not much, but it feels like repaying something I owe. When I met you, I didn't expect it. It had been a long time since I felt anything like that. I thought I'd just help you for a few days, like I did with others. But you stayed in my mind and in my heart. With you, it was different, calm, honest, alive. But I got scared. Scared that if you found out the truth, you'd turn away. I couldn't stay. Not because I wanted to disappear, but because I thought I had already ruined everything. I still think about you. If you felt that what we had was real, I'd like to see you again. I read the email twice, then again, and sat in silence for a long time, hands pressed to my chest, as if trying to hold on to the heart that suddenly began to beat again. Sometimes, one email can bring us back to life. Do you believe that?